Hello, this is Let's Talk About Myths, baby. And I am your host, Liv. And I am here with a very special episode where I am sort of preparing you for Friday's conversation episode. This worked out really well for me because I am also in the very long process of getting rid of half my stuff and moving across the country and other things that I'll mention later. So instead of a scripted episode today, I am here with these 3 readings from Ovid's Heroides to accompany Friday's conversation. I won't give it away, but it's a really fun conversation. We had truly so much fun. But for Today, I do want to warn you that these 3 Heroides, which are, of course, the letters written by Ovid, so fictional letters, but these fictional letters written by Ovid between these famed mythological figures. There's a whole collection of them. I've read a number of them on the show before, but these 3 have something in common, and that is all 3 of these women take their lives because of the actions of men in varied ways. And I say in varied ways because it is and it is not about the men, and that is essentially the conversation that I will have on Friday. So obviously, we're going to break down what's really going on and what's patriarchy and who even knows, right? So that's all coming on Friday. I want to warn you before I just do these readings. And also, of course, trigger warning that, that is how these end. But for the most part, it is an exploration of these women's stories with the men in their lives. It is just the end result that is that. I want to warn you, but it's not becoming the entire reading. The 3 women that we're going to be looking at today through these Heroides are Dido in her letter to Aeneas, Deianeira in her letter to Hercules, though it's Roman, it will be Hercules, and Phyllis to Demophoon. These are 3 of Ovid's Heroides, translated by Grant Showerman. First, Dido to Aeneas. Thus, at the summons of fate, casting himself down amid the watery grasses by the shallows of Meander, sings the white swan. Not because I hope you may be moved by prayer of mine do I address you, for with God's will adverse I have begun the words you read, but because after wretched losing of desert, of reputation, and of purity of body and soul, the losing of words is a matter slight indeed. Are you resolved none the less to go and to abandon wretched Dido? And shall the same winds bear away from me at once your sails and your promises? Are you resolved, Aeneas, to break at the same time from your moorings and take from your pledge and to follow after the fleeting realms of Italy, which lie you know not where? And does new-founded Carthage not touch you, nor her rising walls, nor the scepter of supreme power placed in your hand? What is achieved, you turn your back on. What is to be achieved, you ever pursue. One land has been sought and gained, and ever must another be sought through the wide world. Yet even should you find the land of your desire, who will give it over to you for your own? Who will deliver his fields to unknown hands to keep? A second love remains for you to win, and a second Dido, a second pledge to give, and a second time to prove false. When will it be your fortune, do you think, to found a city like Carthage, and from the citadel on high to look down upon peoples of your own? Should your every wish be granted, even should you meet with no delay in answering of your prayers, whence will come the wife to love you as I? I am all ablaze with love, like torches of wax tipped with sulphur, like pious incense placed on smoking altar fires. Aeneas my eyes cling to through all my waking hours. Aeneas is my heart through the night and through the day. 'Tis he is ingrate and unresponsive to my kindness. And were I not fond, I should be willing to have him go. Yet, however ill his thought of me, I hate him not, but only complain of his faithlessness. And when I have complained, I do but love more madly still. Spare, O Venus, the bride of your son, lay hold of your hard-hearted brother, O brother love, and make him to serve in your camp, or make him to whom I have let my love go forth, I think, and with never shall for it yield me himself, the object of my care. Ah, vain delusion, the fancy that flits before my mind is not the truth. Far different his heart from his mother's. Of rocks and mountains were you begotten, and of the oak sprung from the lofty cliff, of savage wild beasts, or of the sea, such a sea as even now you look upon, tossed by the winds, on which you are none the less making ready to sail, despite the threatening floods. Where are you flying? The tempest rises to stay you. Let the tempest be my grace. Look you, how Eurus tosses the rolling waves. What I had preferred to owe you, let me owe to the stormy blasts. Wind and wave are juster than your heart. I am not worth enough. Ah, why do I not wrongly hate you? To have you perish, flying from me over the long seas. 'Tis a costly and a dear-bought hate that you indulge, if, to be quit of me, you account it cheap to die. Soon the winds will fall, and over the smooth spread waves will Triton course with cerulean steeds. Oh, that you too were changeable with the winds. And unless in hardness you exceed the oak, you will be so. What could you worse, if you did not know of the powers of raging seas? How ill to trust the wave whose might you have so often felt. Even should you loose your cables at the persuasion of calm seas, there are none the less many woes to be met on the vasty deep, nor is it well for those who have broken faith to tempt the billows. Far is the place that exacts the penalty for faithlessness, above all when 'tis love has been wronged. For it was from the sea in Cytherean waters, so runs the tale, that the mother of the loves, undraped, arose. Undone myself, I fear, lest I be the undoing of him who is my undoing, lest I bring harm to him who brings harm to me, lest my enemy be wrecked at sea and drink the waters of the deep. Oh, Liv, I pray it, thus shall I see you worse undone than by death. You shall rather be reputed the cause of my own doom. Imagine, pray, imagine that you are caught. May there be nothing in the omen. In the sweeping of the storm, what will be your thoughts? Straight will come rushing to your mind the perjury of your false tongue, and Dido, driven to death by Phrygian faithlessness. Before your eyes will appear the features of your deceived wife, heavy with sorrow, with hair streaming and stained with blood. What now can you gain to recompense you then, when you will have to say, "'Tis my deserts, forgive me, you gods," when you will have to think that whatever thunderbolts fall were hurled at you? Grant a short space for the cruelty of the sea and for your own to subside. Your safe voyage will be the great reward for waiting. Nor is it you for whom I am anxious, only let the little Eulis be spared for you, enough to have the credit for my death. What has little Ascanius done, or what your Penates, to deserve ill fate? Have they been rescued from fire to be overwhelmed by the wave? Yet neither are you bearing them with you. The sacred relics, which are your pretext, never rested on your shoulders, nor did your father. You are false in everything, and I am not the first your tongue has deceived, nor am I the first to feel the blow from you. Do you ask where the mother of pretty Eulis is? She perished, left behind by her unfeeling husband. This was the story you told me. Yes, and it was warning enough for me. Burn me, I deserve it. The punishment will be less than befits my fault. And my mind doubts not that you, too, are under condemnation of your gods. Over sea and over land you are now for the 7th winter being tossed. You are cast ashore by the waves, and I received you to a safe abiding place. Scarce knowing your name, I gave to you my throne. Yet would I have been content with these kindnesses, and that the story of our union were buried? That dreadful day was my ruin, when sudden downpour of rain from the deep blue heaven drove us to shelter in the lofty grotto. I had heard a voice, I thought it a cry of the nymphs. 'Twas the Eumenides, sounding the signal for my doom. Exact the penalty of me, O purity undone, the penalty due Sichaeus. To absolve it now, I go. Me, wretched that I am, and overcome with shame. Standing in shrine of marble is an image of Sichaeus I hold sacred. In the midst of green fronds hung about, and the fillets of white wool, from within it 4 times have I heard myself, calling by a voice well known. 'Twas he himself crying in faintly sounding tone, Elissa, come. I delay no longer. I come, your bride, yours by right. I am late. But 'tis for shame of my faults confessed. Forgive me for my offense. He was worthy who caused my fall. He draws from my sin its hatefulness. That his mother was divine, and his aged father the burden of a royal son, gave hope he would remain my faithful husband. If it was my fate to err, my error had honorable cause. So only he kept faith. I shall have no reason to regret. The lot was mine in days past, still follows me in these last moments of life, and will pursue to the end. My husband fell in his blood before the altars in his very house, and my brother possesses the fruits of the monstrous crime. Myself am driven into exile, compelled to leave behind the ashes of my lord and the land of my birth. Over hard paths I fly, and my enemy pursues. I land on shores unknown, escaped from my brother and the sea. I purchased the strand that I gave, perfidious man, to you. I established a city, and lay about it the foundations of wide-reaching walls that stir the jealousy of neighboring realms. Wars threaten, hardly can I rear rude gates to the city and make ready my defense. 1,000 suitors cast fond eyes on me and have joined in the complaint that I preferred the hand of some stranger love. Why do you not bind me forthwith and give me over to the Gaetulian Iarbas? I should submit my arms to your shameful act? There is my brother, too, whose impious hand could be sprinkled with my blood, as it is already sprinkled with my lord's. Lay down those gods and sacred things. Your touch profanes them. It is not well for an impious right hand to worship the dwellers in the sky. If it was fate for you to worship the gods that escaped the fires, the gods regret that they escaped the fires. Perhaps, too, it is Dido, soon to be mother, O evildoer, whom you abandon now, and a part of your being lies hidden in myself. To the fate of the mother will be added that of the wretched babe, and you will be the cause of doom to your yet unborn child. And with his own mother will Ulysses' brother die, and one fate will bear us both away together. But you are bid to go by your god. Would he had forbidden you to come? Would Punic soil had never been pressed by Teucrian feet? Is this, forsooth, the god under whose guidance you are tossed about by unfriendly winds, and pass long years on the surging seas? It would scarce require such toil to return again to Pergamum, were Pergamum still what it was while Hector lived. It is not the Simois of your fathers you seek, but the waves of the Tiber. And yet, should you arrive at the place you wish, you will be but a stranger. And the land of your quest so hides from your sight, so draws away from contact with your keels, that it will scarce be your lot to reach it in old age. Cease, then, your wanderings, choose rather me, and with me my dowry, these peoples of mine, and the wealth of Pygmalion I brought with me. Transfer your Ilion to the Tyrian town, and give it thus a happier lot. Enjoy the kingly state and the scepter's right divine, if your soul is eager for war. If Iulus must have field for martial prowess and the triumph, we shall find him foes to conquer, and naught shall lack. Here there is place for the laws of peace, here place too for arms. Do you only by your mother, I pray, and by the weapons of your brother, his arrows, and by the divine companions of your flight, the gods of Dardanus, so may those rise above fate whom savage Mars has taken from out as your race. So may that cruel war be the last of misfortunes to you, and so may Ascanius fill happily out his years, and the bones of old Anchises rest in peace. Do you only spare the house which gives itself without condition into your hand? What can you charge me with but love? I am not of Phthia, nor sprung from great Mycenae, nor have I had a husband and a father who have stood against you. If you should shame to have me as your wife, let me not be called bride, but hostess, so she be yours. Dido will endure to be what you will. Well do I know the seas that break upon African shores. They have their times of granting and denying the way. When the breeze permits, you shall give your canvas to the gale. Now the light seaweed detains your ship by the strand. Entrust me with the watching of the skies. You shall go later, and I myself, though you desire it, will not let you stay. Your comrades, too, demand repose, and your shattered fleet, but half refitted, calls for a short delay. By your past kindnesses, and by that other debt I still, perhaps, shall owe you, by my hope of wedlock, I ask for a little time, while the sea and my love grow calm, while through time and want I learn the strength to endure my sorrows bravely. If you yield not, my purpose is fixed, to pour forth my life. You cannot be cruel to me for long. Could you but see now the face of her who writes these words? I write, and the Trojan's blade is ready in my lap. Over my cheeks the tears roll and fall upon the drawn steel, which soon shall be stained with blood instead of tears. How fitting is your gifts in my hour of fate. You furnish forth my death at a cost, but slight. Nor does my heart now for the first time feel a weapon's thrust. It already bears the wound of cruel love. Anna, my sister Anna, wretched sharer in the knowledge of my fault, soon shall you give to my ashes the last boon. Nor when I have been consumed upon the fire shall my inscription read, Elissa, wife of Sychaeus. Yet there shall be on the marble of my tomb these lines. From Aeneas came the cause of her death, and from him the blade. From the hand of Dido herself came the stroke by which she fell. Next, Deianeira to Hercules. I already did it. It's technically Hercules. I render thanks that Oechalia has been added to the list of our honors, but that the victor has yielded to the vanquished, I complain. The rumor has suddenly spread to all the Pelasgian cities, a rumor unseemly, to which your deeds should give the lie. That on the man whom Juno's unending series of labors has never crushed, on him Iole has placed her yoke. This would please Eurystheus, and it would please the sister of the Thunderer. Stepmother that she is, she would gladly know of the stain upon your life. But it would give no joy to him for whom, so it is believed, a single night did not suffice for the begetting of one so great. More than Juno, Venus has been your bane. The one, by crushing you down, has raised you up. The other has your neck beneath her humbling foot. Look but on the circle of the earth made peaceful by your protecting strength, wherever the blue waters of Nereus wind round the broad land. To you is owing peace upon the earth, to you safety on the seas. You have filled with worthy deeds both abodes of the sun. The heaven that is to bear you, yourself, one bore. Hercules bent to the load of the stars when Atlas was their stay. What have you gained but to spread the knowledge of your wretched shame, if a final act of baseness blots your former deeds? Can it be you that men say clutched tight the serpents too, while a tender babe in the cradle, already worthy of Jove? You began better than you end. Your last deeds yield to your first. The man you are and the child you were are not the same. He whom not 1,000 wild beasts, whom not the Sthylenian foe, whom not Juno could overcome. Love overcomes? Yet I am said to be well mated, because I am called the wife of Hercules, and because the father of my lord is he who thunders on high with impetuous steeds. As the ill-mated steer yoked miserably at the plough, so fares the wife who is less than her mighty lord. It is not honor, but mere fair seeming, and brings dole to us who bear the load. Would you be wedded happily? Wed your equal? My lord is ever absent from me. He is better known to me as guest than husband, ever pursuing monsters and dreadful beasts. I myself, at home, am widowed, am busied with chaste prayers, in torment lest my husband fall by the savage foe. With serpents and with boars and ravening lions my imaginings are full, and with hounds 3-throated hard upon the prey. The entrails of slain victims stir my fears, the idle images of dreams, and the omen sought in the mysterious night. Wretchedly I catch at the uncertain murmurs of the common talk. My fear is lost in wavering hope, my hope again in fear. Your mother is away, and laments that she ever pleased the potent god, and neither your father Amphitryon is here, nor your son Hylas, the axe of Eurystheus, the instrument of Juno's unjust wrath, and the long-continued anger of the goddess. I am the one to feel. Is this too little for me to endure? You add it to your stranger loves, and whoever will may be by you a mother. I will say nothing of Auge, betrayed in the vales of Parthenius, or of your labor, nymph strung at Ormenus, nor will I charge against you the daughters of Teuthras' son, the throng of sisters from whose number none was spared by you. But there is one love, a fresh offense of which I have heard, a love by which I am made stepmother to Lydian Lamus, the Meander, so many times wandering in the soft lands, who often turns back upon themselves his wearied waters, has been hanging from the neck of Hercules, the neck which found the heavens but slight burden, bejeweled chains. Felt you no shame to bind with gold those strong arms, and to set the gem upon that solid brawn? Ah, to think it was these arms that crushed the life from the Nemean pest, whose skin now covers your left side. You have not shrunk from binding your shaggy hair with a woman's strap. More meet for the locks of Hercules were the white poplar, and for you to disgrace yourself by wearing the Meonian zone like a wanted girl. Feel you no shame for that? Did you come to your mind no image of savage Diomedes, fiercely feeding his mares on human meat? Has Busiris seen you in that garb? He whom you vanquished would surely have reddened for such a victor as you. Antiochus would tear from the hard neck the turban bands, lest he feel shame at having succumbed, would tear from the hard neck the wraps bands, lest he feel shame at having succumbed to an unmanly foe. They say that you have held the wool basket among the girls of Ionia, and been frightened at your mistress's threats. Do you not shrink, Alcides, from laying to the polished wool basket the hand that triumphed over 1,000 toils? Do you draw off with stalwart thumb the coarsely spun strands and give back to the hand of a pretty mistress the just portion she weighed out? Ah, how often, while with dour finger you twisted the thread, have your two strong hands crushed the spindle before your mistress's feet, and told the deeds of which you should now say naught, of enormous serpents throttled and coiling their lengths about your infant hand, how the Tegean boar has his lair on cypress-bearing Erymanthus, and afflicts the ground with his vast weight. You do not omit the skulls nailed up in Thracian homes, nor the mares made fat with the flesh of slain men, nor the triple prodigy Geryones, rich in Iberian cattle, who was 1 in 3, nor Cerberus, branching from one trunk into a threefold dog, his hair inwoven with the threatening snake, nor the fertile serpent that sprang forth again from the fruitful wound, grown rich from her own hurt, nor him whose mass hung heavy between your left side and your arm as your hand clutched his throat, nor the equestrian array that put ill trust in their feet and dual form, confounded by you on the ridges of Thessaly. These deeds can you recount, gaily arrayed in a Sidonian gown? Does not your dress rob from your tongue all utterance? The nymph daughter of Dardanus has even tricked herself out in your arms, and won famous triumphs from the vanquished hero. Go now, puff up your spirit, and recount your brave deeds done. She has proved herself a man by a right you could not urge. You are as much less than she, O greatest of men, as it was greater to vanquish you than those you vanquished. To her passes the full measure of your exploits. Yield up what you possess. Your mistress is heir to your praise. Oh, shame that the rough skin stripped from the flanks of the shaggy lion has covered a woman's delicate neck. You are mistaken, and know it not. That spoil is not from the lion, but from you. You are the victor over the beast, but she over you. A woman has borne the darts blackened with the venom of Lerna. A woman scarce strong enough to carry the spindle heavy with wool. A woman has taken it in her hand, the club that overcame wild beasts, and in the mirror gazed upon the armor of her lord. These things, however, I had only heard. I could distrust men's words, and the pain hit on my senses softly through the ear. But now my very eyes must look upon a stranger mistress, led before them. Nor may I now dissemble what I suffer. You do not allow me to turn away. The woman comes a captive through the city's midst, to be looked upon by my unwilling eyes. Nor comes she after the manner of captive women, with hair unkempt and with becoming countenance that tells to all her lot. She strides along, slightly from afar, in plenteous gold, apparelled in such wise as you yourself in Phrygia. She looks straight at the throng, with head held high, as if it were she had conquered Hercules. You might think Oechalia standing yet, and her father yet alive. Perhaps you will even drive away Aetolian Deianeira, and her rival will lay aside the name of mistress and be made your wife. Iole, the daughter of Eurytus, and Ionian Alcides will be basely joined in shameful bonds of Hymen. My mind fails me at the thought. A chill sweeps through my flame, and my hand lies nerveless in my lap. Me too you have possessed among your many loves, but me with no reproach. Regret it not. Twice you have fought for the sake of men. In tears Achelous gathered up his horns on the wet banks of his stream, and bathed in its clayey tide his mutilated brow. The half-man Nessus sank down in lotus-bearing Evenus, tinging its waters with his equine blood. But why am I reciting things like these? Even as I write, comes rumor to me saying my lord is dying of the poison from my cloak. Alas me, what have I done? Oh, wicked Deianeira, why hesitate to die? Shall your lord be torn to death on midmost Oeta, and shall you, the cause of the monstrous deed, remain alive? If I have yet done aught to win the name of wife of Hercules, my death shall be the pledge of our union. You, Meleager, shall also see in me a sister of your own. O wicked Deianeira, why hesitate to die? Alas, for my devoted house, Agrius sits on the lofty throne, Aeneas is reft of all, and barren old age weighs heavy on him. This one thing I deprecate, by the most sacred bonds of our marriage bed, that I seem to have plotted for your doom. Nessus, stricken with the arrow in his lustful heart. This blood, he said, has power over love. The robe of Nessus, saturated with poisonous gore, I sent to you. O wicked Deianeira, why hesitate to die? And now, fare you well, O aged father, and O my sister Gorge, and O my native soil and brother taken from your native soil, and you, O light that shines today, the last to strike upon my eyes, and you, my lord, O fare you well. Would that you could. And Hylas, you, my son, farewell to you. And finally, this is Phyllis to Demophoon. I, your Phyllis, who welcomed you to Rhodope, Demophoon, complain that the promised day is past, and you are not here. When once the horns of the moon should have come together in full orb, our shores would to expect your anchor. The moon has 4 times waned, and 4 times waxed again to her orb complete. Yet the Scythonian wave brings not the ships of Acte. Should you count the days, which we count well who love, you will find my plaint not come before its time. Hope, too, has been slow to leave me. We are tardy in believing when belief brings hurt. Even now my love is loth to let me think you wronged me. Often have I thought the gusty breezes of the south were bringing back your white sails. Theseus I have cursed, because I thought he would not let you go, yet mayhap it is not that he has stayed your course. At times have I feared lest, while you were holding toward the waters of the Hebrus, your craft had been wrecked and engulfed in the foaming wave. Often, bending the knee in prayer that you are farewell, base, base man, have I venerated the gods with prayer or with burning of holy incense. Often, seeing in sky and on sea that the winds were favoring, have I said to myself, if he does fare well, he is on the way. In a word, all things soever that hinder those in haste to come, my faithful love has tried to imagine forth, and my wit has been fertile in the finding of causes. But you delay long your coming. Neither do the gods by whom you swore bring you back to me, nor does love of mine move your return. Demophoon, to the winds you gave at once both promised word and sails. Your sails, alas, have not returned. Your promised word has not been kept. Tell me, what have I done, except not wisely love? And by the very fault I might well have won you for my own. The one crime which may be charged to me is that I took you, O faithless, to myself. But this crime has all the weight and seeming of good desert. The bonds that should hold you, the faith that you swore, where are they now? And the pledge of the right hand you placed in mine, and the talk of God that was ever on your lying lips? Where now the bond of Hymen, promise for years of life together? Promise that was my warrant and surety for the wedded state. By the sea, all tossed by wind and wave, over which you had often gone, over which you were still to go, and by your grandfather, unless he too was but a fiction, by your grandfather who calms the wind-wrought wave, You swore to me. Yes, and by Venus and the weapon that wound me all too much, one weapon, the bow, the other, the torch. And by Juno, the kindly ward of the bridal bed, and by the mystical rites of the goddess who bears the torch, should all the many gods you have wronged take vengeance for the outrage to their sacred names. Your single life would not suffice. Yes, and more, in my madness, I even refitted your shattered ships, that the keel might be firm by which I was left behind, and gave you the oars by which you were to fly from me. Ah, me, my pangs are from wounds wrought by weapons of my own. I had faith in your wheedling words, and you had good store of them. I had faith in your lineage, and in the names it shows. I had faith in your tears, or can these also be taught to feign? And are these also guileful, and ready to flow where bidden? I had faith, too, in the gods by whom you swore. To what end so many pledges of faith to me? By any part of them, however slight, I could have been ensnared. I am stirred by no regret that I aided you with haven and abiding place. Only this should have been the limit of my kindness. Shamefully to have added to my welcome of the guest the favors of the marriage bed is what I repent me of. To have pressed your side to my own, the night before that night I could wish had never been the last for me, while I still could have died, Phyllis, the chaste. I had hoped for a better fate, for I thought it my desert. The hope, whatever it be, that is grounded in deserve, is just. To beguile a trustful maid is glory, but cheaply earned. My simple faith was worthy of regard. I was deceived by your words, I, who loved and was a woman. May the gods grant that this be your crowning praise. In the midst of your city, even among the sons of Aegeus, go, let yourself be statued, and let your mighty father be set there first with record of his deeds. When men shall have read of Sciron, and of grim Procrustes, and of Sinis, and of the mingled form of bull and man, and of Thebes brought low in war, and of the rout of the two-framed centaurs, and of the knocking at the gloomy palace of the darksome god. After all these, under your own image, let be inscribed these words. This is he whose wiles betrayed the hostess that loved him. Of all the great deeds in the long career of your father, nothing has made a mark upon your nature except the leaving of his Cretan bride, the only deed that draws forth his excuse, and only you admire in him. You act the heir to your father's guile, perfidious one. She, and with no envy from me, enjoys now a better husband, and sits aloft behind her bridled tigers. But me, the Thracians whom I scorned, will not now wed, for rumor declares I have set a stranger before my countrymen. And someone says, let her now away to learned Athens to rule in armor-bearing Thrace. Another shall be found. The event proves well the wisdom of her course. Let him come to naught, I pray, who thinks the deed should be condemned from its result. Ah, but if our seas should foam beneath your oar, then should I be said to have counselled well for myself, then well for my countrymen. But I have neither counselled well, nor will my palace feel your presence more, nor will you bathe again your wearied limbs in the Bistonian wave. Ever to my sight clings that vision of you as you went, what time your ships were riding the waves of my harbor, all ready to depart. You dared embrace me, and with arms close around the neck of her who loved you, to join your lips to mine in long and lingering kisses, to mingle with my tears your own, to complain because the breeze was favoring to your sails, and, as you left my side, to say for your last words, Phyllis, remember well, expect your own, Demophoon. And am I to expect? When you went with thought never to see me more? Am I to expect the sail's denied return to my seas? And yet I do expect, return only, though late, to her who loves you, and prove your promise false only for the time that you delay. Why entreat, unhappy that I am? It may be you already won by another bride, and feel for her the love that favored me but ill. And since I have fallen out from your love, I feel you know Phyllis no more. Ah, me, if you ask who I, Phyllis, am, and where, I am she, Demophoon, who, when you had been driven far in wanderings on the sea, threw open to you the havens of Thrace and welcomed you as a guest. You, whose estate my own raised up, to whom in your need I in my plenty gave many gifts, and would have given many still. I am she who rendered to you the broad realms of Lycurgus, scarce meet to the ruled in a woman's name, where stretches icy Rhodope to Hymus, with its shades, and sacred Hebrus drives his headlong waters forth. To you, on whom, mid omens all sinister, my maiden innocence was first bestowed, and whose guileful hand ungirdled my chaste belt. To Symphony was minister at that bridal with shrieks, and the bird that shuns the haunts of men chanted her mournful note. Alecto was there, with her little serpents coiled about her neck, and the lights that waved were torches of the tomb. Heavy in soul, none the less do I tread the rocks and the thicket-covered strand wherever the sea view opens broad before my eyes, whether by day the soil is loosed by warmth, or whether constellations coldly shine, I look ever forth to see what wind does sweep the straits, and whatever sails I see approaching from afar, straightway I augur them the answer to my prayers. I rush forth to the waters, scarce halted by the waves, where the sea sends in its mobile tide. The nearer the sails advance, the less and less the strength that bears me up. My senses leave me, and I fall, to be caught up by my handmaiden's arms. There is a bay whose bow-like lines are gently curved to sickle shape. Its outmost horns rise rigid in the rock-bound mass. To throw myself there into the waves beneath has been my mind, and since you still pursue your faithless course, so shall it be. Let the waves bear me away and cast me upon your shores, and let me meet your eyes untombed. Though it in hardness you be more than steel, than adamant, than your very self, you shall say, "Not so, Phyllis, should I have been followed by you." Often do I long for poison, often with the sword I would gladly pierce my heart and pour forth my blood in death. My neck, too, because once offered to the embrace of your false arms, I could gladly ensnare in the noose. My heart is fixed to die before my time, and thus make amends to tender purity. In the choosing of my death there shall be but small delay. On my tomb shall you be inscribed the hateful cause of my death. By this or by some similar verse shall you be known. Demophoon it was who sent Phyllis to her doom. Her guest was he, she loved him well. He was the cause that brought her death to pass, her own the hand by which she fell. Oh, nerds, that was a really fun one. I'm looking forward to you hearing the conversation. I have this need to describe everything, but we don't have time today. Azrar in the conversation on Friday is going to go through these things. If you didn't get it, the Phyllis one was angry with Theseus's son. So we are with her, even if I haven't told her story before, but now I should. She's mad at Theseus's son. It's so on brand. Let's Talk About Myths, Baby is written and produced by me, Liv Albert. Michaela Smith is the Hermes to my Olympians, the producer. Select music in this episode was by Luke Chaos. The podcast is part of the iHeart Podcast Network. Listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Sign up for the new Myths Baby newsletter. Iris is Rainbow. It's just a cute name, and Iris is a rainbow. Sign up at mythsbaby.com/newsletter. I am Liv, and I do love this shit.